Simply because I am no longer part of the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ does not
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 does not make me an antichrist. My name is Abadwan. I've been a member of the ICGJC for over 20 years. So, and I have seen a lot over the years. I've seen the transition where you went from the original leaders of the church to Jermaine Grant, which is Tazadaqyah. He calls himself the Holy God Sent Comforter. And I have lost my first family being in the church just out of my dedication to Christ. It was a lot that have happened over the years. But when Jermaine Grant took over the church, everything changed from the focus being on Christ, and he went to Jermaine Grant. And I was very turned off by that. I know a lot of you people in the church, you recognize my face. It's a lot of things that happened over the years when Tazadaqyah took over that just turned me off, okay? I know a lot of you have seen, you know that Tazadaqyah is a maniac. You know that Tazadaqyah is a madman. And a lot of you give him the benefit of the doubt because he claims to be the Holy God Sent Comforter. He claims that he speaks to God. And I know that a lot of you guys that are still in the church, you believe what he tells you. You believe his doctrine, that God speaks to him from time to time. And basically, he's the holiest man, or the closest thing to God, or the closest example of a righteous man to God. You understand? So, but there's a lot of things that was obviously happening that turned me off over the years when he took over. And one of the main thing that turned me off, I want to speak on specifically. One time is when Tazadaqyah purchased. I know you guys have seen a lot of cars over the years that he had purchased, but I remember one time. I can't remember what year. If I have to guess, I will probably say about 6 years ago. One of the main things that turned me off one time, Tazadaqyah pulled up in a Hummer, a black Hummer with rims on it. And for those of you that have been in the church for some time, there was a van that was parked in front of the church that was being used for church purposes, meaning to take the camp out and different things of that nature. And the van stopped working. The van was very old, and it got to the point where the van was just completely broken down. So one time, Tazadaqyah pulled up with his Hummer with rims on it, another one, and basically they called men for manpower to help move the van, push the van out of the parking spot so that Tazadaqyah can put his Hummer where the van was at. And it really did something to me, man, when I saw that, because I don't know how Tazadaqyah can have all his vehicles and live the lifestyle that he lives, and the van that was supposed to be used for the Lord's work cannot work, or is not working, and has been like that for a very long time. But every time you look around, he's popping up with new vehicles, luxurious cars. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that turned me off over the years, and that was definitely one of them. So we pushed the van out of the way, and he parked his Hummer, and he was on the phone. I remember him being on his phone, and he went upstairs, and it was business as usual. That really did something to me, man. And I remember periods of times of being in the church where it would rain, and brothers would have to run for buckets and mops and stuff, because once it started raining, it would leak from the ceiling. These are things that I looked at over the years, man, that really turned me off, man. And I said to myself, on several occasions that something definitely has to be wrong. You understand? It's clear that something is very wrong, the way that this guy operates. He lives this lavish lifestyle with all this money that's coming into the church, and a lot of you do not know, and you're not aware of the amount of money that comes through them doors. There's a lot of money that comes through the church. You understand? And obviously, it's going to him to live his lavish lifestyle. You understand? So I end up stop paying funds, stop paying tithes and priest fund, because it became very obvious to me where my money was going. And I elude them for some time, for about a year. You understand? And when they find out, I was brought to council, and I was basically put out indefinitely, and I made the decision not to come back, because in the period when I was put out of the church initially, I started finding out some more information on what's going on with Tazadaqyah. This guy is a complete fraud, and as time goes on, the members of his congregation that are still left in the church, they're going to find that out, because there's going to be a lot of things that are coming up on this guy that are factual, that can be proven. So I just want to say that I do not have any problem with anybody in the church at this point. I never did. You know, our job and the reason why we're doing this is to reach you guys, because a lot of you guys that's still in the church are not taught to think for yourself. You understand? So we're trying to open up your eyes as to who Tazadaqyah really is. The guy is a complete fraud. The man never went to the land of Israel. God does not talk to him, okay? A lot of the prophecies that he have made never come to pass. I know a lot of you guys still have the DVDs. When you look at it, and you feel some type of way about it, because it's obvious what's going on. This man will make a prophecy on one particular thing, and that prophecy will never come to pass, and he will never readdress it and explain why. There's no explanation for anything as to why he said what he said and why it didn't come to pass. So it's a lot of things that's going on, man, with this guy. And I feel like my duty and my job is to expose this guy, because he's a complete fraud.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But if there's one thing I definitely want everybody to understand, when y'all are watching this video, simply because we give eyewitness accounts of the things that we personally have seen, that does not make us Antichrist. The fact that I'm going to speak about certain things that happened to me, and it became the reason and the catalyst for me leaving the church. The character assassination, the things that are being said about me, the things that y'all may have seen on video, or the things that y'all have heard in my absence. Those of you that know me, a lot of families in there, y'all, we've worked together. And it's funny, I'm working with a lot of brothers, and I'm talking with a lot of different brothers, and I don't understand how we got like this. How when I walked in 1996, young, barely 27 years old, and how 20 years later I'm 47. How after 13, nearly 14 years in the church, and the work that I put in, I haven't heard from a brother that's in there wanting to find out what happened to me. I've heard things have been said about me that are inaccurate, grossly inaccurate. So what I hope you brothers and sisters that are in there, that are on the fence, get from all of this is the sincerity of the brothers that you're about to hear give testimony to the things that we've seen, the things that have happened to us, and truthfully, what happens to you when you leave or you get put out. I really want y'all to get that, because there's a lot that goes on with that. There's a lot of ways you feel about yourself. There's a lot of ways you feel about your faith in God. I spent a long time waiting for the other shoe to drop, man. I kept waiting for the judgment that we feared so greatly, that we were taught if we ever left the truth, this is what would happen to you. And I wrestled with that because I knew that I was in there sincerely until the day I had to walk away when I was no longer able to serve my God with the level of joy that I had experienced when I first came into the truth. And I know a lot of you know what that's like. I know a lot of you, when you came in there wide-eyed and ready to labor and to give your all for God, and how you found as the time passed that very little of what you did was for God, but it was simply for man. How many times you began to do things just so that nobody would talk to you, that nobody would write you up, you wouldn't get called to counsel. You did all these things, and that's when you found yourself a prisoner of the very doctrine that you were supposed to be guiding your life by. The very principles that were supposed to guide your life in the world and deal with the world became secondary to surviving inside the church.
Hi, former captain of 13,000 Chaazaq Yaahla. Some of y'all may know me as DJ Fat Kid. I was a member of the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ for over 15 years. In that time period, I saw a lot of things happen. The reason why I'm not in the church anymore is because I was suspended because I missed major conference due to the stomach flu. I was told I should have went to the emergency room instead of going to urgent care. The last 13 years, I started seeing things for what they were in 2011. In 2011, I lost my wife and my father in the very same year. When I lost my wife, I was actually DJing the kids' party the day she died. The moment she died, I was DJing the kids' party because I was doing my duty as a member of the ranks to fulfill my duties. When my father died, my father some of you know my father as Chief Priest Al-Azhar. My father was a very, very dedicated man to the truth. And in seeing what he went through and in realizing that everything he did was pretty much in vain, and seeing what he went through, my father gave his very life to the church. On a month-to-month basis, him and my mother lived on ramen noodles, pretty much lived on ramen noodles and chicken wings. When he died, he didn't have a life insurance policy. He didn't have a lot of income. They lived on Social Security, both of them. And when he died, it was told to me the day he died. It was told to me. I was asked how we're going to pay for it, and I had no idea. I had no idea I was going to pay for his funeral. But it was left up to me because I'm the one my father trusted. So I was told by former Chief Priest Gaddawan, don't worry about it. The church has got it. We're going to take care of it. And I'm thinking, because my father was a faithful tithe-paying member, paid all his funds to zero. Never had a debt sheet. Because I knew this because I was part of the finance department. So when I figured my father would be taken care of by the church, I found out very, very quickly that I was wrong. I got a call from Tazadaqyah, and he asked me how are we going to pay for the funeral. I said, I don't know. My father doesn't have a life insurance policy. He has no money. And I told him that the funeral itself was $5,000. My father would be buried in the National Cemetery since he was a veteran. And I was told that that's a lot of money, brother. I don't know if we're going to have that. He said, I'm going to call you back. He called me back and told me, brother, I don't know, we can't give you the money. You're going to have to lean on some family members to get that kind of cash. That was a hard pill to swallow, but I dealt with it. I said, you know what? I got to figure out how to bury my father. Shortly after that, I got a phone call from Chief Priest Izarya Nathan that said, since I was in the finance department, I handled most of the money that came in Philadelphia. I was told that you can no longer handle any finances in the church. This is right after my father died. Right after. My father's sitting in the other room. He was sitting in the other room and he's dead. I'm talking about handling finances. So now I'm scrambling. I'm scrambling now. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I get a call probably about another half hour later from all the apostles, Tazadaqyah, Rawbon, Shar, Arya, and they proceeded to shoot me out because I hadn't planned effectively my father's funeral, even though I was still planning it. I was told at that point, we're going to give you the money, but you need to make sure everything is planned from here on out properly. And I realized from that moment that I could not rely on the church for anything. And that was that day that I got my brother to get my mama an insurance policy, because I knew I couldn't lean on the church. And for so many years being in the finance department, we're telling members that if you are ever in need, contact the church and you can lean on the church. That is a lie. Another thing, I lost my wife to a prophecy that Jermaine gave to the congregation about the H1N1 virus. When my wife needed a heart, one of the questions was, do you want your wife to get a flu shot? And I said no, because my spiritual leader told us that the H1N1 virus is going to kill people. The doctors, of course, looked at me like I was crazy. So I went to counsel and I told them exactly. I said, no, I told them I wanted to confer with my spiritual leader first. And I went up to counsel and I conferred with him. And his reply to me was, why would you tell them that? And I knew that no one else in the congregation knew that the H1N1 virus was safe. I knew no one in the congregation knew that. Because when I came back and I told him the thing out, he looked at me like I was crazy. He looked at me with the same look I looked at him with, like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, brother, I don't know why you would tell them that. If I was a doctor, I'd look at you crazy too. Yeah, the H1N1 virus is safe. They recalled all those viruses. Shortly after, they told my wife that they couldn't give her a heart. So my wife subsequently died because she couldn't get a heart. So I lost my wife and my father in the same year. And I think about it every day that my father gave his life for what he thought was the truth. Coming to find out that he was giving his money to a man that was taking advantage of his poverty and his faith. Don't let that be you. Don't let that happen to you. Like my other brothers, when I left the church, I waited for the shoe to drop. I waited to be judged. I waited for the judgment of God to come. Hasn't come. But when I had my baby girl Glory, I realized I cannot raise her this. I can't raise her in this. I can't. Oh, don't let me forget that when it came time to do my father's funeral, I asked him. He asked me, so who's going to do the funeral? And I said, well, since he was one of the chief priests, I figured that you do the funeral, sir, talking to Jermaine. And he proceeded to tell me, brother, I got things to do. I'm too busy to do that. Too busy to perform a funeral for a chief priest that outworked a lot of the chief priests in Philadelphia. And you can't say he didn't. At 77 years old, my father outworked most of the chief priests in Philadelphia. He outworked most of the men in Philadelphia. For you to tell me you're not going to do his funeral was a slap in the face, especially after I found out you did one of the Rory's kids' funerals and he wasn't even a member of the church. Then I had to turn away people at his funeral that told him that they couldn't come because they would be unclean. I had to turn away his best friend, Kagorium. I had to turn you away from attending his funeral. So no, me sharing my experiences, I don't feel bad about it. Because again, because I share these things, I am not an antichrist.
I mean, there's so many things to say about that man, Jermaine Grant. Incident, this man, he thinks he's on a level that he's one of the greatest prophets to ever walk the face of the earth, to the point that he even said, at one time, comparing his wisdom to Solomon, that he was like even greater prophet than Solomon, based upon the fact that Solomon said, who can find a virtuous woman? He justified it with that and said he knows how to find a virtuous woman. But yet and still, he made all these different DVDs, keys to a successful marriage. And as being an eyewitness and all you brothers and sisters saw, the man, he made all these DVDs showing you how to lock down, be virtuous, find a righteous woman, a virtuous woman. He made DVDs on a virtuous woman. That's why he compares himself on a higher level than Solomon. I mean, that's how he looks at himself. But yet still, when you look at all his marriages, they all fell. I mean, it never prospered. One minute he's married to one woman, and next minute she's put out. She's a devil. Everybody, it's a problem with everybody else, but not him. You know what I mean? I mean, his character, he's very ill-tempered. Scripture says a furious man cannot be justified. An apocrypha. Very obnoxious, arrogant, easily angered. I mean, the scripture talks about if a man seeketh, desire the order of a bishop, he desireth a good thing. And it also speaks about later on in the scriptures about a bishop, so be sober, you know what I mean? Not a striker, not quick to anger. And these are things that, that this man does not show examples of. He shows that he is a striker. He is quick to anger. The situation when I was, I want to go into the situation. I was on security. And basically, it was in Florida. I think it was the second AAA awards that happened in Florida. And we on security. And after the party, they had after the AAA awards, you had people summoned to his little room, his little villa room where he was at. They had the councils. A whole bunch of men was in there. And basically, I can give an account. Is we was on security. Alahaim Bun was outside, his right-hand man, his main liar, who would lie for him in a second. But, Barack Obama, a whole bunch of us was out there on security. His brother, Maf Kabar. And who walked in the council, I remember, that night in Florida. It was last night after the party. I remember clearly Mawal Ahmad, Ayash Allah, Kakamayan, Chaazaq Yaahla, because he was dealing with the councils. Those are the main men I do remember that was up in there. Mawal Ahmad, Kamayan, Ayash Allah, Chaazaq Yaahla, a few other brothers, because it was a situation. I believe Rapal Yahla was in there, because it was, I believe, I'm not sure, but it was a situation dealing with the media department. And you can hear this man yelling about how things went through the door to the point that we started to move our chairs away from the door. Now, we on security. Next thing you know, I hear this man screaming at the top of his lungs at somebody saying, "You think this is a joke, Ak? You think it's a joke?" Next thing you know, you just heard boom, boom, like somebody was getting yoked up bad in there, man. That brother started to move all the way away from the door. Now, I guess, me, being naive at the time, I'm on security, when we got back to New York, my ulama, since I mentioned, because that's the brother I remember was in there. I said, my war, me and him was cool. I said, Joe, man, that meeting, because mind you, that night when I heard that bumping, like somebody was getting thumped out, I saw Chaazaq Yaahla coming out with tears in his eyes. Brothers was shook up in there, coming out shook. And when we got back to New York, that following week, I saw my ulama, we was laughing. And I said, yo, brother, what happened? It sounded like somebody was getting beat down. He looked at me and said, don't worry about it. Don't ask no questions about that. Don't worry about that. Fine, my bad. I saw how serious it was, so I left it alone. So next thing you know, maybe a few weeks later, we on security, everybody left, and he was leaving. And before he left, he turned around the door and called me up. So Ilyan Rawchaa, I was downstairs by the bottom steps. I ran up. He asked me, "What's this I heard about you asking what happened in the council?" So, me, I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. I guess I had a devil. I was being nosy. But, who can, if you hear that, you on security and stuff is going on, all type of flags is going up in there in your head. Like, what type of counselor of God is this where a man seems like he's getting his ass whooped? So I looked down. I was like, apologetic. But he looked at me and said, "Don't you know that's a bad look on you out?" So I never knew what that meant. But I realized it now because ever since then, I guess I was targeted. And he was waiting for the opportunity to put me out. But this man is a furious man. He's an angry man. You understand? And a lot of you guys know that work very close with him. when I was, I asked the question, I was curious because nobody else seemed to want to know about it. And, I got confronted. It was always in the back of my head, and then I come to find out later that this man that so what I heard was true. The man that was actually getting basically yoked the hell up and dragged across the room was Yashami Palal, a man that's been dedicated with him. He's still by his side right now. Will speak up for him in a second. This older man, Yashami Palal got to be at least maybe 15 to 20 years older than Jermaine. Gray hair, and from what I understand, that this man dragged Yashami Palal back and forth across the room, was slamming him up and down on the floor, yoking him up. Nobody did anything. Now, Shah and Arya was in there. Rawbon, because they had their little council up in there, they was being counseled. And all this noise I'm hearing, nobody did anything to intervene to stop this man. He's taking full advantage of an elderly man who really cannot defend himself. I mean, Jermaine at the time, he was thick, big boned. He wasn't no muscle. He was like a fat slob, shall we say. But nevertheless, he had weight on him. He outsized the man. He was bigger, much younger than the man, stronger. And this is what you hear about your leader, the person that you love and respect and admire. This is what he does to the men that loves him, that would do anything for him because they made a simple mistake in the media department. That from what I understand is there was a brother in the media department that took full responsibility for it. And he right away said, no, it was Yashami Palal. And started to grab the man up and just do him all type of ways in front of the other men up in there. None of his superiors, we know he doesn't have superiors, but none of his equals like Arya or Shah said anything to stop this man. And you can hear the noise through the halls of the villa. This guy was acting like a wild man. But yet and still, this is the holy God-sent comforter that comforts the people. I thought there was, according to the scriptures, I thought there was peace in Christ. But obviously, that's not the situation with this man. Because you're going in to serve God, and you got to worry about some evil, tyrannical dictator putting his hands on you. You're there to do the will of God, Jesus Christ. You're working for Christ. You're there sincerely out of your heart, working for Christ. You're not there for Jermaine Grant. But all of a sudden, it turned around to be some type of, it just turned into a chaotic melee. Everybody's catering, being men servants. Yeah, the scriptures talk about don't be a man servant. Everybody was being a man servant to Jermaine Grant. And when he see that you have any type of intelligence or you question anything that's going on, then he has a problem with you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not docile, you're not quiet, you're not all that submissive. But you know what? A lot of brothers, they see all that going on and they look the other way. A lot of evil is going on in there and you look the other way. And you guys are going to see this and you guys are going to make a lot of excuses that we just made. I'm not mad, disgruntled at all because I've been living the best past 4 years of my life because I'm no longer in that place where it takes over and takes away your life. So I'm good. But this is for you brothers and sisters that's seeing things go on in there and behind the scenes, you don't know what's going on. Because this guy's a very evil and furious man. And I hope you wake up real soon for your own sakes.
Hey, shalom, peace to the brothers and the sisters that's still members of the ICGJC. Many of you may remember me. Many of you may know me. Many of you may not. I'm a former chief priest, Yashami Palal, former member of the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, the ICGJC. I came into the knowledge in November of '95 and left in Passover of 2015. I know many of you that did know me probably wondered what happened to me. You probably heard
a lot of nonsense, a lot of ridiculous rumors, a lot of lies that's been put out about me, you know. So I, along with the other brothers that are here on this video, are here to tell you the truth about the occurrences that have been going on at 1941 Madison Avenue, the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ. You know, and you know, again, back to the thinking, really believing this guy as being some sort of music mogul out in the world and having a legitimate business. And being a young man, impressionable, and trusting this man as the leader of my nation and the prophet of God, I didn't question anything that he did. So seeing him live a lavish lifestyle, have luxurious vehicles, multiple luxurious, brand new luxurious vehicles on a yearly basis, having multiple homes, which that I found out later on down the line. I didn't question any of this stuff because, again, and I would still, if it was legitimate, I still wouldn't question it. But the fact is, his so-called business, Black Icon, is nothing but a front. And you brothers and sisters that's in there need to know that. The ones of you that still in there, and you're telling yourself, every time you see this guy roll up in a brand new Benz, a brand new BMW, a brand new whatever it is, and you say to yourself, let me fight that demon, you know, that's the comforter right there. That's, you know, he's doing his thing in the world. That's why he has that. You need to know that that's not true. Okay? This man has no legitimate business. He's not a legitimate businessman. His business is the church. You understand that? You need to know and understand that. And how does that make you feel? He's trained us to think that if anyone does act out on their thoughts, you know, where is he getting this money from? How come he has a new car every 4 months or every 5 months? Automatically you tell yourself that's just a demon. Don't think like that. Don't think negative. And he also has us trained that if you do speak out verbally, you're going to get reported for even questioning such a thing. And, you know, the cat is out the bag. Black Icon is a storefront. It's a front. It's no more of a legitimate business than any typical drug dealer may have you know, an actual building, maybe an LLC, a corporation. Doesn't mean it's a legitimate business. This is just for show. This is all it is a shell. But what goes on behind the scenes within the business is absolutely nothing. There's no records being produced by Black Icon. There's no music. There's no videos. There's nothing. The only thing that Black Icon produces is the church DVDs that you guys see. That's it. It's not a legitimate business at all. I know this 100% is for a fact. I used to work for the man. Many of you don't know that.
My name is Chaazaq Yaahla, former chief priest from the Israelite Church of God Jesus Christ, and I got put out in 2014 in August after our so-called break that we have for the 42. It was supposedly be because of a bad wedding ceremony, but what it really boiled down to was I was accused of being an FBI agent. Now, if anybody knows or remembers me, you know that I work a regular job. I have a regular family like everybody else. I work in about 3 or 4 departments, worked in 3 or 4 departments, and I was dedicated to what I believed in when I was down there. So why would I go against what I believe in for $1 when it wasn't about money? Our beliefs stem far past money. We dedicated our lives to our craft and what we did for God. Not for a man, but for God. We worked all departments. We did what we had to do. We took care of our families. And we still dedicated time to the church. The incident happened with the FBI when they came to my job and they questioned me and they wanted me to expose the fraudulent and the buying of properties that was undocumented, illegal money laundering. They basically wanted to know what did I know that could help them. At the time, I was Officer 100. I didn't know anything. And if I did know anything, I still wasn't going to say it because I was in belief that the church was doing righteous deeds. I didn't know any better. So, I called, can I say his name? Oh, okay. I called Frank, which is out of High and Bun. I called Frank and I told him what happened, and he wouldn't answer his phone because we work in the same job. So he wouldn't answer his phone, and it just so happened to be that after the interview, I was kind of shook up because I didn't know which way to turn. So I know if I talked to Frank, he would call Jermaine. He would call Jermaine. He would tell Jermaine exactly what's going on, and then we would find a resolution to the problem. That's not what happened. When I called Frank, he didn't answer his phone, but it just so happened to be that when I was calling him, I was walking to the back of the garage where we park our cars, and he was trying to ease out the back of the garage. So when I saw him, I held my phone up in the air. I let him know I was trying to call him. He stopped his car, let me talk to him for a little while, and the conversation went like this. I said, yo, you're not going to believe what just happened. The FBI just questioned me upstairs in the office. We should call somebody about this. He told me to my face with a chuckle and a sneer. He said, hey, Kanad, it's going to happen. We in that time, In the scriptures, it tells you that the dragon is going to come and persecute the people. So I said, okay. I was comforted with his answer because I thought Frank was my friend. So, maybe 4 weeks prior to this, after this had happened, he asked me one day, was I going to be at Jacob's Cafe on a Tuesday night? So I said, yeah, I had some stuff I had to do up there or whatever. So he said, okay, cool. So he came in later on that night. We both met up at the cafe. And he says to me, yo, don't go nowhere. I got to talk to you. So I'm wondering, okay, why can't you talk to me now? But I understand he had duties or whatever to deal with the Holy Apostles or whatever. So he went downstairs, and he's down there for a while. And I was about to leave. And NIS had stopped me at the door. They actually stood in front of me and wouldn't let me leave the building. And as I was talking to them about me leaving the building, somebody from level 2 screamed down that I had to go into council. When I went into council, Frank was sitting there talking to the Holy Apostles about, I don't know what they talked about before I got there, but I was questioned about my interview with the FBI that had been 4 weeks prior to our conversation at council. Now, no one has to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. If you tell somebody something that's important, that can save the lives of others, and you say, listen, just make this phone call so that we can get to the bottom of this right now, and the person tells you, I won't worry about it, and then 4 weeks later, you get hauled into council because now you're being accused of not reporting an incident, how does that make you look? Now you look stupid. You look like you're working for the FBI, when in fact the person who ran the council, who was sitting beside me, he might be the FBI informant. What? Okay. So anyway, so now I'm sitting in council and I'm looking real crazy. I don't have any answers. I don't have nothing to say. All I know is that I'm looking real bad because if I had reported it, maybe I wouldn't have been looked at as an FBI agent. But when I had my special session, because I had a wedding and it didn't work out good at all, I had a wedding. When I went to the special session, everybody jumped on me. They said what they had to say at the special session, said what they had to say. They didn't like what happened, and I apologized to people. People stood up and said things at the special session that didn't happen, and it was exaggerated. But, like any special session that you go to, there's a height, there's a climax to it, and then it sort of dies down. After things die down, then you're supposed to go into a vote. I didn't get a chance to get into a vote because this was Jermaine's opportunity to present me to all of the people in the room as being an FBI agent. And if you could have seen the look on the people's faces that were inside that room, everybody looked like they had got punched in the stomach, that they had lost the wind. That was it. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to think. But of course, Jermaine hyped it and hyped it and hyped it. yeah, this brother could have been the one poisoning your food. This man here is responsible for a lot of these things. This is the reason why I kept telling y'all. He said, I kept telling y'all over and over and over again that there's a person in the congregation that works for the FBI. I'm telling y'all for the longest, this is that brother right here. And I knew, and I think 90% of the room knew, that that wasn't a fact. Those that know me know that I drive a bus for a living. That's what I do. I've been doing it for 24 years. So I don't have time to be an FBI agent other than take care of what I was doing in the truth at the time. So how can I be an FBI agent and working inside the kitchen and poison people that I see every day that, you say, I love you, brother, I love you, sister, and you're poisoning them, including my family and my 4 children that were there. So wouldn't they get poisoned too? Makes sense. I think so. What do you think?
My name is Izarya Nathan, former member of the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ. Been around a long time. Was in the organization, started in 1993, November. Been in New York and then moved to Florida. Was in Florida for a very long time, since about the year 2000. My rank at the time was Bishop High Priest of the state of Florida. At that time, there was 4 cities in Florida that were operational. It was Miami, Orlando, Fort Myers, and West Palm Beach. So pretty much over all of that. I want to share with you a conversation that I had with Tazadaqyah, Jermaine Grant, about the too tight situation. He started giving little hints about that before I left New York, bringing out that scripture in Tobit, but he never really implemented it. When he had his rise to power, he implemented. That's when he implemented it. And that was when I first went to Florida, first got down to Florida. He put it in action. That was also the time when he cut payroll for everyone. Or, you used to have a certain payroll. People used to be on payroll. He cut that. So, I'm here in Florida. I'm over Florida. So he's talking to me, not on a daily basis, but pretty often. So he calls me one day and we're talking. And he's saying, just hold it down in Florida. Just keep on doing what you're doing. You're going to get help. We got the tithes coming in now. The church is getting rich. Money's coming in. So I'm like, okay, well, Tobit, the scripture in Tobit talking about the 2 tithes. He says, yeah, well, how do you expect us to come up? How do you expect the church to come up? There had to be a way. He said to me, there has to be a way for us to come up. There has to be a way for money to come in. And it's the 2 tithes. Makes all the sense in the world. That's what he says. He says that phrase. So I had to go along with it. I had to enforce it. I had to collect the tithes. I had to do all that. It was very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable breaking that to the congregation, especially people that are just coming in, especially people that have been used to paying 10%. Now, all of a sudden that's doubled. That takes a big chunk out of your income. So that was very uncomfortable for me to be on that podium and break that down and deal with the business on a nightly basis. It was very uncomfortable for me, but a lot of money came in. And what happened was that started breaking people, because when the High Holy Days came up, and that's another fee that you got to pay. That's another bunch of money you got to pay. So now the High Holy Days are coming up and people can't pay that. People can't pay for their Passover garment. They can't, the money's not, it's starting to slow down. So I get in trouble for that, because
him and Tazadaqyah give me a call on the phone and say, Izarya, we don't know, what's going on down there, man. You're not collecting the money. You're supposed to get the money out. You're supposed to make sure that these people pay the money. They got to do it. And you should be busted for not collecting the funds. There was one particular fund that they went crazy over. I forgot what High Holy Day or what it was, but there was one particular fund that they were rushing to try to get that money in, and they kept calling me about it, and the money was just not coming in. You can't get blood from a stone. I mean, 4 cities in Florida, you're talking about young brothers and sisters. Some of them don't even have jobs. Some of them still live with their parents. And they don't have that money like that. So that was a lot of pressure to try to push these brothers and sisters to do that. It got to the point where I started telling them, look, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't have it, you don't have it. That's what I'm going to tell the Mati Makpash. They ain't got it. They don't have it. I tried to get it. They don't have it. So that wasn't good enough. So Jermaine and Tazadaqyah and Tazadaqyah give me a call. They both got me on the phone. It was like, listen, man, you being downgraded from high priest to bishop, high priest. Not because of anything that you did in particular. It's not being busted down, but we're going to send Rawchaa down to Florida. He's going to be the high priest. So come to find out later on, Rawchaa was sent down to collect the money, because I had a conversation with Rawchaa, and he told me that his orders from Tazadaqyah was, go down there and get that money in, Ak. Izarya is not doing the job. You go down there, Rawchaa, and get that money in. And, he tried. Rawchaa tried to do that, but, he's a brother that got a heart too, and he started to realize, look, these people don't got it. They don't have the money. And eventually he was busted. He got busted before I did, and he left. And, so the money thing has always been a stumbling point. It's always been an issue, and it became an issue, and it kept on snowballing till it just got worse and worse to where it is now. People are poor. The Bible says the poor shall always be among you. People don't have it like that. So concerning the two tithes thing, after a while, when you study and you realize you see that that's false. That's a false doctrine. It's all about trying to get money, and it's not real. That's not what the scripture in Tobit is talking about at all.
Yes, so my name is Zahab. A lot of you guys know me, especially in New York. I've been in the church for 23 years. I've been over the Bronx unit. I've been over transportation. I've been over construction. And in between, I did it all. And I almost never missed a class or a Sabbath or anything. I have a perfect record within that church. And the things that I see that I didn't like was how the brothers and sisters were treated. How they have to travel from distant states and spend a whole night in the cold trying to see counsel when that could have been taken care of over the phone. I've seen brothers and sisters sacrifice all their money and all their time and get nothing for it. One of the things that really hurt is one man reaping all the benefits. He gets to go where he wants, whenever he wants. He gets to spend money however he wants on the things he wants. Meanwhile, you sacrificing your time and your money, and you like imprisoning yourself. You're neglecting yourself to make the church happy, and all he's doing with the church money is whatever he wants. These are some of the things that really bother me. The sacrifice I see brothers and sisters put in, believing that they're doing it for Jesus Christ. And for Tazadaqyah to come and reap all the benefit while he's telling you, you got to wait for Christ's blessing. You got to wait for Christ's blessing. Everybody's waiting for Christ's blessing. Why he's not waiting for Christ's blessing? Why is he taking the church money and buying what he wants? I saw titles for his cars under the church name, his properties under the church name. I know he been taking home the church money from day one. I seen bags coming home, bags coming to Arlington. And I always question myself, why is this guy bringing home money when it's supposed to be in treasury? Then I start thinking back, he's always the last one to leave. He's always staying back late, making himself look like he's doing something, waiting to bring home that money. Eventually, I start seeing evidence of it. I start seeing evidence that he didn't have a job. He don't have a business. He's putting himself out there like he got so much going on, and he had nothing going on. The thing that he had going on is using the church for his personal gain. And while the brothers and sisters in there sacrificing everything they have, he's home doing nothing, running around with girls, having fun, seeing his friends in the world. He's just doing whatever he wants. And it just didn't add up. And, brothers, they work hard in the truth. They get rank and position and things like that. And he just casually busts them and put them out or whatever, like it's nothing. Like your works don't mean nothing. And this is something that we believed in the truth, that your works and everything that you do is going to lead you to Christ. It's going to lead you to the kingdom of heaven. So here you sacrificing all your time and energy and money to please Christ. And this guy is taking advantage of you. It's like he's just kicking you out for no reason. So one of the things I wanted to talk about that really bothered me is how the church money is being collected and spent. Since 1991, I've been in there, and I've seen tithes, priest fund, brother's been paying. It's been taking care of business with no problem. When Tazadaqyah came in, he instituted 2 tithes, and he started changing up a lot of things within the nation. But one of the things that really bothered me is how the brothers and them was paying priest fund. They had $31 to pay every single week. They had $8 for camp equipment fund. They had $13 for van fund, and they had $10 for priest fund. 10 and 8 is 18, and 13 makes 31. This is how you have the $31 a week that every brother has to pay. That money was being collected for 3 purposes. One is the priest fund that help pays brother's salary, mainly the apostles. The $8 for the camp equipment was to buy camp equipment for the nation so they can go out and do the Lord's work. And $13 was supposed to be for vans, or to upkeep the vans and to buy new vans. When I did the calculation of $13 per man for the van, I seen over 500 brothers at any given year was paying that money. When you add that money up, 500 times 13, it comes out to over 6,500 a week. When you times that for a whole year, it comes up to over $338,000. When you times that up to 15 years, over $5 million came in over the past 15 years for a van fund, and not one van was bought. If you look at the church records, they only had 1 van from 1996. That van was donated to the church. The church didn't have to pay for it. The only thing the church had to do was pay the insurance and the registration and deal with any tickets, which I was the man who dealing with tickets. And 90% of those tickets I got dismissed, thanks to God Almighty. He gets the credit. But nobody had to tell me about it. I did it on my own. I watched the nation struggle with vans or transportation. People had to go on the train with the camp equipment and all that. And we were paying money like crazy for a van that we never seen. At one point, I couldn't take it when the van started breaking down. I had to go and buy my own van and start using it for when I needed for the church to do the Lord's work. It got so bad that brothers in other camps and departments that asking me to use my van. And I'm like, why is we paying all this money and the church wouldn't even buy a van? Meanwhile, Tazadaqyah is buying all kind of cars, Bentleys and Hummers and Jaguars and Land Rovers and everything. I mean, he's just buying whatever he wants. And I'm like, why this guy cannot buy the church a van? So it became clear to me that this guy has no interest in the Lord's work. I start paying very close attention to how he operates. And anything that has to do with money within the church, that's what he was interested in. He was interested in treasury. He was interested in the Jacob's Cafe. He was interested in selling at Passover. Anything that brings in money is the only thing he was focusing on. The things that contains like the Lord's work, going to camp and stuff like that, that was no interest to him. He had no care or concern or any kind of feeling towards it. I started paying close attention to how he operates. He was very secretive. He hiding stuff. He hid the fact that he had houses and all that in Jersey. He hid how much cars he had. He hid a lot of things from the church and how he get it. He want people to believe that he had a business and he was successful and this is how the money comes in. But he had to zap one, staying at the church almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, paying his bills. I witnessed that myself. Over $120,000 in 1 week, all going to Tazadaqyah. The church does not spend $120,000 a week. So when you ask about the rent of the church, it's not even that much. When you look at the church expenses, it's not even that much. So all this money coming in, where is it going? It's not going on the building. Every 4 or 5 years he do a little bit of renovation. And that is small money to the amount of money that's coming in. But when you look at how Tazadaqyah is living, he has like a $2 million lifestyle. He got houses in Jersey. He gets apartments that he don't even use that they're paying rent for. He got houses in different states. He got apartments in different states that he just used for his personal pleasures. Meanwhile, the brothers and sisters in the churches, and not just in New York, but all over, giving them too much money to stay in that church. And you don't have it, you got to be brought to council. Or the Treasury Department is going to be looking for you, pulling you to the side and questioning you about your finance and why you ain't got this and why you ain't got that and all that. And meanwhile, the church is making a lot of profit. I look at the high holy days. The brothers and sisters have to pay $60 per person, $25 for their kids. New York alone was over 400 people on any high holy night. When you calculate that much money, it's over $24,000 collected for one high holy day. And you know, Israel, ain't no $24,000 spent in food. Because that's the only thing that you're really paying for is food. You're not paying for anything else. We're not traveling to a high holy day. We're sitting there, and after the prayers and everything, we go and eat. The only thing the church had to buy is food. $24,000 collected. What? $2,000 worth of food is bought. All you're getting is a plate of food and a soda. It was embarrassing. You have to watch this and wonder, where is all this money going? And why brothers that is broke and poor has to pay this kind of money? Where is the justice? There's a lot of things I've been watching, how the church is actually taking advantage of our people. And there's nothing you can do about it. Then Tazadaqyah tells stories, or make you believe stories that he went to Israel. I questioned that many times in many different ways. One of the things that I saw is that every time he talks about going to Israel, at some point in the conversation, he phased himself out and add Arya and Shah in there and have them tell their story to make his story look good. So that made me start thinking, wait a minute, there is no evidence. Actually, no evidence that he went to Israel. I heard stories about his wife. I know her personally. She said all the years she and him lived together, there was no evidence that she can find that he went to Israel. And there was another situation that came up about a trip to Haiti. He made this big show that he's going to help Haiti because of the earthquake, and he's going to take some brothers down there, and they're going to go down there, and they're going to help out the brothers. I'm like, wait a minute, why is the church doing that? Because we're not on that level yet. And I find it strange how he just went from New York to Florida. Normally, if you go into a different country, you just leave from New York to Haiti. But he went to Florida, and now I'm hearing stories that he didn't go to Haiti. He had brothers in a hotel for a whole month. And when after the month ended, they went and took pictures of some broken down buildings. And this is the evidence that he's going to use to lie to New York and lie to the rest of the churches that he actually went to Haiti. Why are you faking these stories? Why are you telling people that you did these things when you didn't? Why is the lie? Why is the secrecy? Why are you always trying to cover your tracks? Every time a brother or a sister have a situation, Tazadaqyah finds a reason to try to demonize you and try to bust you and try to put you out. That's his whole life history in the church. Starting with the apostles. Back then you had Arya, you had Shah, you had Rabban, you had Zapwan, you had Kakum, you have Kakumbun, you had Nawak, you had Abanazaba. All these brothers was back there. One by one, they have a little situation, Tazadaqyah find a reason to get rid of them, bust them, put them out or whatever, until he got rid of all those guys. Break the spirit. Then he start working on some fake apostles that he's going to set up under the 3, and these going to represent the 12 apostles. Those brothers was just put there for show, and he put them there so he could make people believe that the 12 apostles is there. But they have no power. They have no authority. They can't do nothing. They don't control nothing. All they're there is for show. You run to them for a council date. That's it. That's all they do. That's not apostles. That's not what they do. So all these things I'm looking at, and I'm finding, that these things is not in the scriptures. You don't read about stuff like this. So why is it set up? Why is it being tolerated? This is all Tazadaqyah doing.
My name is Rawchaa Karab. I was a part of the ICGJC for 19 and a half years, part of the Philadelphia church and the New Jersey church, from 1993 up until 2013. I was there as a faithful member until Tazadaqyah assassinated my character in front of his 42 chief priests and threw me out. I'm not going to go too much into that because I got a whole episode dedicated to my story and my testimony of why I'm no longer a member of the ICGJC. But I want to call to your attention and talk about a particular verse in the Bible. The verse is Romans chapter 16, verse 17, where the Lord tells you about those that claim to be doing the will of Christ, but actually they're serving their own belly. And that should be pretty obvious, brothers and sisters. I mean, you just take a look at the congregations and the conditions of the congregations. I mean, you can see, all right? You may not be able to see that when they open their refrigerators and their freezers, they're looking at the back, okay? You may not be able to see that, but you can see that they look pretty run down, okay? Their babies look run down, all right? They catching public transportation to the churches and all that, and barely able to afford car notes and have a car. But yet Tazadaqyah has many. Okay? It's no secret that this man lives a lavish lifestyle. So, you know, he's serving his own belly, but the scriptures also talk about how good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. You gotta stop being simple, brothers and sisters. You gotta stop being bewitched by the things that you're hearing coming out this man's mouth and not paying attention to the things that you're seeing or not seeing. For an example, let's talk about the greater university of the 144,000. I mean, I'm not a member of the church anymore, so maybe you got an update. I don't know. But when was the last time you got an update? Last I heard, it was some court battles and all that going on over the different state or the building that this was supposed to be had at and all that. And, it hasn't happened as of yet. Now, if this was something that he really wanted to get done, there's a huge building in Philadelphia called the Shield Building. It's huge. It can hold probably all of the brothers, I'm sure all of the brothers that are in the ranks and all these different sisters that he got, it will hold them. And if he really wanted this greater university of the 144,000 to take off, he could have used another location. Why hasn't he? Now, from what we were told, once you went through the greater university of the 144,000 and you graduated, you were supposed to graduate with your spiritual gift. Whether it was speaking in tongues or the gift of healing and all that. But let me ask you a question, brothers and sisters. How you going to get these gifts, and how this man going to tell you that you going to get these gifts, and these are not gifts that he himself even possess? I mean, the man barely speaks English properly. And y'all know that. Okay, the word is disciples, not disciples. The word is respect, not respect. And y'all hear him saying these things in these DVDs and all that. The man barely speaks English correctly. So how he, come on. The Hebrew tongue, all right? The Hebrew language. A sister from Philadelphia named Yashami Palal. She got kicked out of the Daughters of Zion, whatever you call that. The Daughters of Zion, because she greeted Tazadaqyah on the phone and she said, "Ma shalom ka, sir." The man snapped on her. He said, you trying to speak Hebrew to me, sister? And the man ain't know what it meant, okay? And, he was put on the spot. He didn't know what to say and how to respond. And he put out the Daughters of Zion thing, okay? That's a true story. So how you going to get the gift of speaking in tongues and the man that's supposed to be the man with the Holy Spirit, the only man with the Holy Spirit on earth, he himself do not have that ability. The man claimed he went to Israel. He claimed he went on Mount Sinai. When you read the Bible, Moses went on Mount Sinai. Moses had power. Paul, he went up on Mount Sinai. Paul did miracles. He healed people. You can read all about that in the book of Acts. Why is Tazadaqyah the only one to go on Mount Sinai and not have any power? Think about that. All you got is fake claims of people that have been healed. Fake claims. Chaazaq from New Jersey claimed that he was healed of his fibromyalgia. Y'all might have seen him on the DVDs and all that, or hear him on the DVDs. Khan! One of Tazadaqyah's main cheerleaders. But nevertheless, he's supposed to have been healed. That man still, to this date, is breaking down and got to be taken out of the sanctuary and took home from the church because he's in excruciating pain. Our brother Haradapia, the man that he said was going to see again and lied about that. I just recently talked to Tazadaqyah in Camden. He tried to switch around how he said what he said about Dop and all that, as if I wasn't there, and as if a lot of you brothers and sisters was not there when he stood up and said, Haradapia, you will get your sight back. And when you get your sight back, you're going to run like hell. He tried to change that all around, but he's been to New York, Tazadaqyah, in wheelchairs. Brothers damn near broke their back to carry this man up the steps into the sanctuary for the so-called hour of prayer. Hands been laid on Doc. Doc never saw, never got rid of his diabetes. Doc had high blood pressure. Doc passed away. There's no true testimonies of any healing going on in that place. But yet this man claimed that he went to Israel and then went to Mount Sinai and all that. Okay? You got like 5 DVDs of keys to a successful marriage. This man is giving you the keys. An unmarried man, a man that cannot lead by example in this particular discussion here, this particular topic, marriage. He has no example of a righteous marriage of his own to show you. But yet he can make DVDs on how you can have a key to a successful marriage. 5 DVDs. Where's his wife? Where was his ceremony? How many of y'all went to Tazadaqyah's ceremony? Where's it at? So you listening to what this man is saying when he's making these DVDs. But what do you really see from this man? No marriage. No successful marriage. You don't see him coming to the picnics holding hands with his wife. You don't see him sitting over there with his wife having conversation. Not a hug. Nothing. But he could tell you how to have a successful marriage. Maybe you think that he's a eunuch. Is that what you think? You think he just don't deal with women? All these years you think he ain't had no woman? You might know of some that has been in the churches. That's Sister Jessica. Might know about her, who he took from another brother after he threw the brother out. And of course he got a way to justify it. See, that's something y'all got to realize about Tazadaqyah. The scriptures talk about a wicked man will not be reproved. He got something for everything. No matter what you say and how this cat is red-handed, caught red-handed, wrong. If you listen to him, that's where you're going to mess up at. Because he got a way of bringing things and twisting things and using things to his advantage to create all this hocus pocus and trick you. 2 sisters in Florida, there's testimonies about, that he done had sex with and found a reason to throw him out of the church. No wedding, no ceremonies, no open display of love towards any woman that you have ever seen. We got to pay attention to these things. Brothers talked about the ranks and all that earlier too. When it comes to the ranks, y'all don't realize them ranks are fake. Fake ranks. When there was captains of 10,000 in the army of the Lord, when you read in the Bible, that's because it was 10,000 men. In the grand scheme of things, Tazadaqyah, you and your group, you're very small, man. I mean, you got these other groups who you call rebel camps and all that, man. They catching up to you, or they might even be past your membership right now. What's a captain of 10,000, man? And you sitting up in the church of 20 people. I'm an officer. I'm a captain of 13,000. These ranks are fake. The apostleship is fake. Fake as hell. Why am I saying it's fake? Well, number one, there's no such thing as the apostolic succession. And I noticed he stopped saying that. the apostolic succession. That used to be what was said in the beginning. But it's some information that came out that if you're talking about the apostolic succession, that you've been infiltrated by the government. So maybe that's why you stopped saying apostolic succession. But nevertheless, the Bible tells you that Jesus Christ, the 12 apostles, he's going to reveal who those 12 apostles are at his coming, at his second coming, in the regeneration. A man cannot make himself an apostle. Jesus Christ picked and chooses his apostles. Why? Because they was already chosen by God the Father. There was a day in 1941 Madison Avenue where there was no 12 apostles. And then there was another day when this big old event took place in 1941 and Shaw chose 11 other men, including himself, and made up 12 apostles. There was nothing spiritual or miraculous about this, okay? They decided to make this order up in the church. Ariel was one of them. Shaw was one of them. Rawbon, Kakumbun, Nawak, Tazapawan, Tazadaqyah, Abunazar, Yeshaya, Chaazaq, and another brother from California, I believe. That lasted all about 6 months. Tazadaqyah found a way to get them other brothers out of there, man. Then you was dealing with 7 for a while. Then Tazadaqyah found a reason to bust them, and then it was 3 for a while. And then he came out with this whole new order. 3 holy apostles, and then the 12 apostles. That ain't last long. You had one apostle who was a child abuser. Then you had another apostle that just left the church. So all this you're supposed to look at, brothers and sisters, and see that Christ is not with this. Christ said, if it be of man, it shall come to naught. Shall come to nothing. And this order that Tazadaqyah is setting up in that place is all him. That's his doing. I told Tazadaqyah to his face recently. You believe that these brothers and sisters in this church belong to you. You don't believe that they belong to Jesus Christ. This is why you do whatever you want to do in that place. Tazadaqyah is not guided by the Spirit of God. Tazadaqyah is guided by the lust of his own flesh. It's all about what Tazadaqyah wants. Y'all don't realize Tazadaqyah don't even respect this order that he got set up? How is it that Christ said that where there's 2 or 3 witnesses in my name, there I am in the midst of them? Ariel and Shaw could be in the council, give a judgment. And as soon as they walk out of that room, here comes somebody else talking about, oh, we know Shaw said this, that, and the other, but you got to wait on the boss. 2 men that supposedly believe in Christ already gave the judgment. Christ was supposed to be in that judgment. So what the hell somebody got to wait on Tazadaqyah for? Showing you he don't respect that order. 3 holy apostles, right? Supposedly. But 1 man runs everything. That order's fake. When them apostles, them first 12 apostles that Tazadaqyah chose to call apostles, that was ridiculous. Karatazar, when he made that first order up of the 42, Karatazar was chosen to be a 42 chief priest. You know why? Because he had the gift of faith. Come on, man. Y'all didn't see that was a bunch of BS? because the man is Khan. He was one of Tazadaqyah's cheerleaders, and this is why. Anybody that's like that, Tazadaqyah loves them. The Rock became an apostle. Why was he an apostle? The testimony that Tazadaqyah gave the congregation out of his own mouth on why The Rock became an apostle is because when they was at that other place that they got, where the old sewing department was at, and the police came and apprehended Tazadaqyah and was taking him down the stairs and everything, The Rock was walking behind them, looking like he wanted to do something to the police. Now, what the hell was The Rock going to do to the cop? I mean, let's be serious. So he had to look at The Rock and tell him, The Rock, stand down. Stand down, The Rock. And this is why this man became an apostle. You serious? Y'all don't see that this is a joke? Y'all don't see that Tazadaqyah plays games with you, brothers and sisters? Y'all don't see that he's constantly telling you things just to continue to string you along for more and more days and weeks and months and years? And what are you getting out of this? All this hoopla and all that and clapping your hands and jumping up and down and praising God, right? But when you go home, you going home to a totally different situation than he is. You going home damn near to poverty. And this man is going home to luxury. Whether it be at his home or one of his condos, or when he decides to go down to Florida and hang out down there. How are you really living, brothers and sisters? Stop the madness. Stop stop brainwashing yourself. And think about it. How are you really living as long as you've been a part of the ICGJC? Be honest with yourself. Let me ask you a question. Wouldn't you be better off with more money and the knowledge that you have? What's wrong with knowing that Christ is black, knowing that you're an Israelite, knowing the commandments of God, and being a doctor or a lawyer and having some type of career? Why is it that the majority of the brothers and sisters in that place have menial jobs, hardly no money, almost living like a bum? Why is that? Why is there no prosperity? All this prosperity that Tazadaqyah talked about that was supposed to come, where is it at? Look around, brothers and sisters. Point it out. Who do you really see in that place that's really living a good life, a halfway decent life? It may be a few, but that's what it is, a few. A few. The man took advantage of us and our faith in God once we found out that we were God's chosen people. And he used the Bible against us. See, my opinion, I don't even think this man believes in God. Matter of fact, I know he don't believe in God. To be this damn evil and know that you oppressing your people, he got to know he oppressing Israelites. The man continues to come up with reasons to get money out of your pocket.
Some of you guys may know me as Dab Womathan. My rank was Captain of 13,000. I was in the Israelite Church of God of Jesus Christ for 16 and a half years. My issue became the failed prophecies. Of course, when you first hear these things that's supposed to take place with your nation, you're excited about them. You have the year of glory that came up, and we were supposed to be glorified as a nation, and that's when the world was going to begin to recognize us, and that didn't happen. In 2012,
That's the year that the multitude was supposed to pour in. And a lot of you may remember him saying that the multitude is going to be so great, we're going to have to hold Passover at Yankee Stadium. Every time you cut on the television, you're going to see shields of Davids around the necks of anchormen and politicians and NBA players, and that the numbers are going to grow so vast in every area there's a church at, that you're going to have politicians coming to the leaders of those respected areas looking for our support, and at that time we'll be able to make certain demands regarding that city and what it is that we may need. That didn't happen. And when he got wind of how people were feeling concerning that, his attitude was, who told you that the multitude was going to come in now? And then the new understanding that he gave was, the scripture says, in that final hour, many shall be converted. So, studying and paying attention and living my life based upon the word of God and every word that has come from out of his mouth, when something changes, I notice it. There are a few other brothers that have noticed it, but you are trained to fight yourself. That intuition that you have that lets you know that there's something wrong, that indoctrination, the indoctrination that takes place, it's the devil, or you got the demons. Knowing that something isn't right. Him talking about going to the top of the mountain. The first story that was given was that when he got to the top of the mountain, first he had to find somebody that would bring him to the top of the mountain because there was no one that was available. He finally found a guide that brought him to the top of the mountain. He wanted to go somewhere privately and pray. So he went over to the edge of the mountain where there was a little small cliff that he climbed down on where he could pray, and then he says he went into a trance, and that the guide began looking for him because he did not see him, and that they searched the entire top of the mountain and could not find him. He said at that time he knew that the Lord had put him in a trance and took him from off of the mountain and gave him the understanding of the word of God and instructed him on what he was to do with the nation. That was the first story that everybody had received, and we believed it because of the breakdowns. How can this man know what it is that he knows if God had not given it to him? Years later, details on the story changed. He went to the top of the mountain. He went to that same cliff and climbed down to pray, and he went into that same trance and was taken from off of the mountain, and that same guide searched the entire mountaintop and thought that he had fallen off. But this time when he woke up from out of the trance, it wasn't him climbing from off of the cliff back onto the top of the mountain. It was him waking up in the back of a little hut that I believe he referred to as a souvenir shop. And they had a cot back there, and he woke up from out of that, and then he ran into the guide, and then the story continues. The temple from the ground up, 4 New York City blocks. 4 New York City blocks. This man claims that we were going to have, based upon a scripture that he says was prophecy, and it was going to be done, and there was nothing that Satan could do to stop it because it was the prophecy of God. It couldn't be hindered whatsoever. The breaking of the ground was supposed to be in 2014. 2014 came and went. 2017 is what was supposed to be the completion. The DVDs being sold was supposed to go to the temple from the ground up. The dollar drive was supposed to go to the temple from the ground up. And there were also pledges that individuals had made. And all this was supposed to go to the temple from the ground up, and nothing ever happened. He spoke about Amathia Makapash's brother who committed suicide, for those that are in that do know, which is also elect Lady Rayaka's brother as well. He would walk back through the doors of 1 West 125th Street. He said it would not be something that's far off, but it would be days and weeks. And as you know, we are no longer there, and that prophecy failed. $400 for a summertime garment that never received. $300 for an Archangel Award ticket, all because the feds raided. $200 for spiritual. And the purpose for this spiritual, or the purpose for the spiritual, is he compared it to going into a hospital and getting an examination and being given a prescription for whatever physical ailment that you may have. You get a prescription from him based upon whatever spiritual ailments that you may have. Everybody was elated about it and was looking forward to receiving this prescription that he said that they would receive. People felt that they had issues that needed to be addressed within themselves, and that him, being the God-sent comfort of the nation of Israel and being in constant communication with God as he leads everyone to believe, that word would be given through him to us from God on whatever personal situations that we may be struggling with that we haven't come to counsel about. When I received my spiritual, me personally, I know what my problem was and my shortcomings were. So when I opened it and I seen the spiritual, I immediately recognized that it was only general information, and that it was things that you ain't supposed to be doing anyways, and it's things that you were supposed to be following anyways. But it was nothing that targeted what my problem was. So I became inquisitive, and I asked a couple of brothers that showed me their spirituals, and the only difference between the spirituals were our names and rank, and the comment that may have been made on the final page. Other than that, they were identical. I believe this is going into the 4th year. The first year, it was free of charge. The following year, you were charged $200 for a spiritual that you didn't receive. The following year after that, you was charged another $200 for a spiritual that you didn't receive, but you did get a questionnaire asking you about whether you commit adultery, if you fornicate, if you steal, things of that nature. And this year, you've also been charged $200 for a spiritual that you still have yet to receive. It became too much. The failed prophecies. One of the things that he said is that the time is here that you will no longer leave the Israelite church of God and Jesus Christ and begin to prosper, but that you will utterly fail at everything that you do, and it will be known that you turned against God. And the congregation of the righteous will understand that this is the judgment for becoming an antichrist. You have individuals that have left and that have been cast out by him unjustly that are not antichrist. They're just not pro-Tazadaqyah. This is a man that you can literally go months without seeing. You come in, you see his car, you see his sprinters, you see his children, but you don't see him. You hear him from the back performing his Wizard of Oz trick where he grabs the microphone and he speaks on certain things that people, but you don't see him. He doesn't take the podium when he pulls up on the block. You got to run around the corner. Everybody has to clear. You can go months without seeing this guy. He doesn't keep the Sabbath with us. He doesn't pray with us. He doesn't eat with us on the high holy days. But for some reason, this is normal to everyone. This is accepted by everybody. It's become too much. Nothing is free will anymore. Everything is mandatory. Family days are mandatory. There are certain days in Hanukkah, if you're an elected official, that have become mandatory. There's a sister that was an elect lady that had 6 children. She could not get a babysitter for the light party. And the sister was called into council that following Tuesday, and she was stripped of her, whatever you want to refer to it as, her being the elect lady. Some people may feel like, well, it's something that the sister may have been doing, but it's always something that someone was doing where you always get humiliated, stripped, and this is how he keeps people in a fearful mindset. That's all that the ranking structure is about. Keeping control over you. The higher you go in the rank, the more work that you have to do, which is less that you can do for your family, and it's all justified and backed up with a scripture. And you can make a mistake, or you may sin and repent, but it'll all be stripped away from you, and you become a perpetual recruit, which the understanding on that was you were going to be a recruit forever until the Lord returns, because your crime was that severe. But even that changed, because forever has a time frame with the Lord. And we cheer and we praise and we jump out of our seat, and it's normal. It's not normal.